Yankees take both from the Philadelphia Phillies. So the Yankees earlier, I guess it was probably a month, maybe a little more than a month ago, lost both at Philly. And now they return the favor, win both at the stadium against the Phillies. And so now the Yankees have won 4 consecutive series, and they are now 9-3 in their last 12. So that dates back to the last game against the Mets, where they had really hit what felt like rock bottom. Like the rock bottom could happen again, but to this point, that's what it was. Felt that way. And they were at 500 at that very moment. And now they won that game, took 2 out of 3 from Seattle, 2 out of 3 from Houston, 2 out of 3 from Boston, and both against Philly. And what I like about this, although I'm not sure long term what happens, is the guys that are coming through, you can call it next man up, if you will, but it's a lot of no names. Seriously, guys that even the average Yankee fan honestly would have no idea who they are. And they're the ones that are a driving force to the Yankees winning these games. What I'll say also is I think the starting pitching has been, if nothing else, serviceable along the way. I think that's a key here, is that the starting pitching has, while maybe you don't always get the necessary length from the starting pitching, they're keeping the team in ball games. I still think the bullpen has its issues, although keep in mind, you still have Loaisiga out, who should be back soon. That's huge. And I would argue that Loaisiga has been the best, most consistent member of that pen. Really kind of a jack of all trades type of reliever for this team. So that's important, but that needs to improve. Certainly Chapman and Britton have been beyond underwhelming for different reasons, but what I like is that the Greg Allens, the Estevan Florials, Ryan Lamar's, so on and so forth, even like Rougned Odor, it's not the core of this team that's really, in my mind, stepped up in the past. It's the guys that have been kind of called up or had to step up in terms of, playing time that have really helped the Yankees win games. So the vibe is better in that sense. But here we are, 4 at Boston, 3 at Tampa, and then 3 at the Marlins. So a 10-game road trip coming up. But like I said, those first 7 is going to be really crucial. Now, they could tread water. They could, go 3-4, 4-3, and so that'll kind of keep them in place. But if they went, let's just say, I'm not expecting them to, but let's just say they went 5-2, or on the flip side, if they went 2-5 with the trade deadline looming, this is a critical, very important stretch coming up here. Like I said, particularly these next 7. And at Boston, it's not going to be easy. While I like the fact that the Yankees have a speed element to their game, which they've lacked all year, playing pretty well fundamentally, and this and that, you do need, lack of talent will eventually get you. So no Judge in that sense will hurt. No Gio will hurt. Voit to an extent with his injury, like that will come back to bite. But I love the speed game, but it's going to be tough. Let's just keep it in the near future, and not even look ahead to that 3-game series against Tampa. This 4-game series against Boston is going to be tough. If not for the fact the Yankees need to win games, I'd gladly sign up for a split. But just because the Yankees need to win, 3-4 would be great. Before we, get into that, let's, of course, recap this 2-game series against the Phillies. And these were good games. They were long games, both kind of similar, actually, in its own way. And what's weird with the Phillies is, and look, let's be honest, the NL East is, a horrible division. The Phillies are very good at home, not very good on the road. I feel like that's been a thing for them in the last few years, too, for whatever the reason. But the first game would feature Aaron Nola and Domingo Germán. And this lineup was brutal, really brutal. I don't think there were any roster moves other than, yes, there was actually. Trey Amburgey, who had left the game Sunday night against Boston, was placed in the IL with a hamstring injury, and they called up to replace him Estevan Florial. And Estevan Florial looked good. looked really good these 2 games. So that was a good thing. So again, another guy. It's been crazy. Um, and Florial was in this lineup. DJ LeMahieu was in this original lineup, but what happened was he had a stomach virus. So LeMahieu out also. So this lineup featured Brett Gardner batting leadoff, Rob Brantley, the backup catcher, played first and batted sixth. So like that to me was the most ridiculous thing out of everything. Just funny. And then Greg Allen, who's been continuing to do really well. We'll talk about that. He would bat seventh, Florial eighth, Wade ninth. So just especially brutal. But they won. But they actually won with this lineup. It was Nola versus Herman. And Nola, who this was a rematch of the second game in Philly, which the Phillies smoked the Yankees. Herman got rocked and Nola pitched really well. In this one, Herman was okay. Again, kept him in it. And Nola, eventually they got to Nola. He was good to start. And it seems like Nola, I want to check his stats, but I haven't followed him too much this season, but it just seems like eventually you get to him. It's been, Nola's got a 4.64 ERA this year. And some would think of Nola as the ace of the Philly staff. No, definitely Zach Wheeler by a mile. Phillies would jump out to the early lead as, Domingo Germán definitely has a home run issue. We know this, especially at the stadium. And Rhys Hoskins would victimize Germán with a solo shot to give the Phillies a 1-0 lead. And then in the third, Greg Allen. Leadoff triple Greg Allen. The Yankees don't get many triples, but Greg Allen, he's been just doing a lot. Hitting the ball well, stealing bases, playing sound defense. Greg Allen, this is a guy who was on Cleveland. The Yankees got him from San Diego, but Allen known for being, a center fielder on Cleveland, and he's been really good, and he's a switch hitter, and I would expect him, even when players come back, he's got to stay in the mix here. He deserves it. And then Esteban Florial gets an RBI ground out. We'll take it. He was happy about it too, which was kind of exciting. Like he was pumped just to get that RBI ground out. So good piece of hitting, and it ties it up at 1 as Allen scores. However, in the fourth, Germán would give up a run right back. Leadoff walk to Hoskins. You never want to do that. And then eventually with 2 outs after a balk would advance Hoskins to second, old friend Ronald Torreyes would get an RBI double to give the Phillies retake the lead 2-1. Then in the fourth, Odor gets a 1-out single, a bunt single. So Odor, love the fact that Odor is laying down these bunts. He should do it more. He's been great with it. It works again, and it's a single. Then Gary Sanchez gets a hard single to left, and Odor goes to third. So first and third, 1 out, and unfortunately, Gleyber Torres strikes out, and then Rob Brantley bops out. So not a great job by Gleyber in that situation, even though he has been better lately, and we'll talk about that as well, but didn't come through in that situation. Sessa comes on in the fifth. Again, to me, an unsung Yankee, Luis Sessa, throws a scoreless fifth. And then in the bottom of the fifth, Greg Allen this is the Greg Allen show. Greg Allen walks, steals second. Florial, again with the good fundamental hitting, gets that deep fly to center, and Allen advances to third. Then Tyler Wade lines out to Didi at short, but luckily Didi tries to get Allen out at third as he kind of strayed a little bit away, but in doing so, Didi throws it away. Torreyes can't corral it, and so Allen scampers on in. So Yankees catch a bit of a break there, makes it 2-2. And then the next batter with 2 outs in the fifth, Brett Gardner, hits a solo shot, gives the Yankees a 3-2 lead. The Yankees are definitely taking advantage of that right field porch lately, which is good. They hadn't been doing that enough early in the year, and I'm finding the Yankees are getting a lot more of these, sort of short porch home runs. So that makes it 3-2. And then in the sixth, Sessa would walk Hoskins and then get Didi to ground out. And then he's out of the game, and then Licky comes on, and he's able to get out of it as well. He would walk, he would get a fly out, Torreyes would walk, but then Luke Williams would strike out. So the Sessa-Licky combination works, although Licky would pitch into the top of the seventh. In the bottom of the sixth, Gary Sanchez hits a mammoth, deep, 440-foot bomb to give the Yankees a 4-2 lead. And then they would try for more, as Rob Brantley would get a 1-out double. Nola's then out of the game. Jose Alvarado's in, Greg Allen walks, Estevan Florial walks, bases loaded, 1 out, and Tyler Wade would ground into a 1-2-3 double play. So a bad job by Tyler Wade. It's not ideal that he's in the lineup, but it's kind of out of necessity. But, Wade there doesn't get the job done. It stays at 4-2. And then in the 7th, Licky gets into a bit of trouble as with 1 out, Real Muto singles, Harper singles, Real Muto goes to third. First and third, 1 out. And Chad Green comes on. Chad Green, when he's on, he's really good. It took him some time, though, here. He walks McCutchen on 4 pitches, so it's basically 1 out. Then he gets Hoskins looking on a strikeout. And to be honest, Hoskins didn't complain. It looked like it might have been outside. Yankees, I felt, got some calls. Maybe it went both ways, but I felt like Yankee pitching got some of those close ones. And then Didi strikes out. It was a rough series for Didi all around in this 2-game set. Maybe he's still secretly with the Yankees. But Green, really good job to get out of that key jam. So it's 4-2. Phillies bring in Brandon Kinsler. And with 1 out, Giancarlo Stanton, who really hadn't been doing a whole lot, came alive a bit in these 2 games. He did. And he would get a solo shot. So it makes it 5-2 Yanks. And we move to the top of the 8th. And this is where Zach Britton, it's been a struggle. He would pitch in both of these games, and both were struggles. The Sunday night appearance against the Red Sox wasn't pretty, as he couldn't get 3 outs. He threw too many pitches. So Zach Britton, someone who I normally like. When he's on, I like Zach Britton, but it's been bad. There's just no way around it. He's not someone that you trust right now, not even close. So he does get Brad Miller to strike out. Then Torreyes, who had a very nice night, singles, Luke Williams singles, and then Gene Segura gets an RBI single. So with Britton, there's going to be a lot of that ground contact, and sometimes they find holes and whatever, but it makes it 5-3. Luckily, though, in this appearance, he would get Real Muto to ground into a 1-4-3 double play. So that was really big to hold it right there. So the Phillies had some chances, but, stranded some runners in key spots. So that made it 5-3. And then in the bottom of the 8th, with 1 out, first career home run for Estevan Florial, capping off a really nice night for him and promising. I mean, this is someone who the Yankees really felt was going to be a really like a 5-tool player in this league just as recently as a couple years ago. His stock has dropped just a bit, but you see why everyone was excited about him, and this was a really good game. So Florial with the homer makes it 6-3, and then Aroldis Chapman comes in for his first save attempt since he blew that Met game where Pete Alonso homered. Luckily, it was a 3-run game because he again gave up a bomb. This time it left the park. It had been a lot of warning track shots. This one was a home run. He actually did strike out the side. It was a McCutchen home run, but around that, he struck out Harper, Hoskins, and then Didi looking on a pitch it was an 0-2 pitch, so maybe he eventually gets him out, but it was outside. Either way, Chapman, it's an improvement, and the Yankees win 6-4. A gritty win, I would say, where they were losing early. There was tense moments, but Green gets a couple of big outs. And you get home runs from Gardner, Sanchez, Stanton, and Florial. So 4 solo shots, and then Greg Allen. I in particular, the Allen-Florial combo I felt like was really vital in this one. And yes, the Yankees won the first one. Let's go to game 2. So game 2, it would be a situation where the Yankees would send down Hoy Park. So Hoy Park, he only got that one appearance at the game that I went to where the Yankees lost, where he pinch hit for, I believe it was LaCastro. I don't remember. I think it was, and he grounds it out. And then he would stay in and right. But other than that, he never played. So I guess they really were. He had done well in the minors. I was kind of excited to see what he was going to bring, but I guess they really were hard-pressed to bring him up as he was the one that got sent down. I think part of it also was the Yankees needed pitching in this game, and they used all of the quote-unquote bad relievers were used. So it kind of made sense to send Park down. Who they called up was Asher Wojciechowski. Wojciechowski recently was on the Orioles. His major league career stats are not great. His minor league stats were not great this year. So I was very concerned about this. Luckily for the Yankees, the Phillies, who don't have a good bullpen, had a bullpen game of their own. Their starter, Spencer Howard, did well, but then after that, it was a bit of a mess for them. And Wojciechowski, it was kind of a Domingo Germán-like performance. Literally 4 innings, 2 runs. If you told me that Wojciechowski would give you 4 innings, 2 runs, I'd sign up for that. It was not pretty. He got out of some jams, but all in all, it works out. He kept them in the game. So in this one, LeMahieu's back in there. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. Yeah, in this one, Phillies jump out to that early lead. First pitch of the game, Gene Segura solo homer. And Segura, I mean, certainly to that point, had been a thorn on the Yankees side, in the games against them this year. So 1-0 Phils, and I'm nervous about Wojciechowski at this point. And then, he runs into a little bit of trouble in the second, but gets out of it. And then in the third, it's a hit by pitch to Real Muto and then an RBI double to Harper. But then Wojciechowski, that he would walk McCutchen and then he would get out of it. He would. So it's 2-0 still. And then, so Spencer Howard for the Phillies pitched a really good first 3 innings. But luckily that was all it was for him, as the Phillies brought on Christopher Sanchez in the bottom of the fourth. And with 2 outs, Gleyber Torres hits a solo shot. So that is another homer for Gleyber. He now has 3 homers in his last, 4 games. So look, these aren't necessarily mammoth shots. This was kind of another one of those right center field short porch homers, but we'll take it any way we can get it. So good for Gleyber that he doubled his home run output in, very recently. So then Brett Gardner singles. And who is it again? Greg Allen. RBI double. He is really hitting the ball well. So yeah, RBI double for Greg Allen. Gardner scores, and the Yankees take a 3-2 lead. And as a matter of fact, Tyler Wade would walk, and Allen and Wade would get a double steal. So it just, I guess it's Allen specifically, but it just feels like it's a faster lineup. There's more lefties in the lineup. You're dealing with not the same shit. They're giving you a different look, and it's working. And I hope that they understand that. I hope, Cashman and company see that maybe not these specific players, but this is working. In the 5th, Albert Abreu come on. Albert Abreu's been good. Albert Abreu has looked way better than he did last year when he was called up. There's potential there. The guy can throw up, I think he can touch 100. He's got really nasty stuff. So, he pitches a scoreless 1-2-3 5th. Then in the 6th, runs into a little bit of trouble to the point where they would bring on Justin Wilson, which I thought was risky. So what the Phillies then do is they pinch hit the righty Luke Williams. Jankowski, the lefty, was in. So in order to avoid the lefty-lefty matchup, they bring in Luke Williams, and Wilson gets the ground out. Justin Wilson had a good performance tonight too, which is a good sign. I don't trust him, but it was good. So Abreu and Wilson combined to come through. In the top of the 7th, Wilson survives a 2-out walk. So great job. Then Hector Neris comes in the 7th, and it's been a pretty brutal year for Neris, especially recently. And it's a 1-out single for Florial, and then he steals second. That would prove to be really important. Again, that speed, it's crazy to me. And I know analytics kind of poo-poos it, but I don't get it. With 2 outs, Florial on second, Giancarlo Stanton. It's amazing what happens when you can just hit the ball the other way. He does that, gets it through. Florial scores, gives the Yankees a 3-2 lead, and then it's Rougned Odor, who, if nothing else, is just a fun watch. He pimps his home runs. I mean, he's definitely got stop. I mean, if he's not on your team, you don't love him. And even if he's on your team, I think he can kind of bug you at certain points. But when he's going well, it's pretty fun. So Odor hits his 11th of the year, 2-run shot, and much needed. Really much needed to make it 5-2. If they had kept it 3-2, they weren't winning this game. So that was really important. Big home run for Rougned Odor, and that makes it 5-2. So in the 8th, they bring in Zach Britton, and at this moment, you realize, okay, Chad Green's not available, which is fine. But what's interesting is that Green and Britton's workload were very similar. So it's interesting that they said Britton's, and Britton's been less effective. So Britton goes back-to-back nights and 3 out of 4. Chapman as well. So Britton and Chapman, they will certainly be unavailable when the series starts tomorrow against the Red Sox. I'm hoping that Loizaga will be back, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe. Either way, Zach Britton does not come through, and it would be Rhys Hoskins that would reach on a fielding error by Gleyber Torres. So Torres' defense has been better, but this was a really key bad error by Gleyber. And with the way Britton can't find the zone, that would prove really problematic. Didi walks, so it's 1st and 2nd. Miller grounds out. Britton makes a nice play defensively to get Miller out. So it's second and third, and then he walks Ronald Torreyes. So he walks Didi and Torreyes, two former Yankees that don't typically walk. But they work some pretty good at-bats, I guess. And that's it for Britton. And they bring in Nick Nelson. And at this point, look, like, it's not a matter of blaming Boone. Green was unavailable. There wasn't a whole, and they used Sessa the night before. They used Licky. They didn't have many options. So Nick Nelson, I don't like Nick Nelson, and this was not a good outing, but it could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. And Britton needs to get his act straight. So Luke Williams gets a 2-run single, which is really bad considering the top of the order is coming up. So it's 5-4. He then walks Segura. So it's bases loaded. Then there's a wild pitch, and it ties the game. So at this point, 5-5, second and third, one out, but he does strike out Realmuto. Then he walks Harper, and then McCutchen on the first pitch. I was a little surprised just because Nelson has a tendency to walk a lot of guys. He flies out. It was a pretty good pitch to hit, but he gets under it. So Nelson, as bad as it was, it ends up being 5-5 at the end of the inning, which you kind of sadly take it. But again, bad on Gleyber fielding, really bad on Britton, and then Nelson, not good, but could have been worse. Then in the bottom of the eighth, Archie Bradley comes in, and he's able to hold it down. So we go to the ninth, and Chapman's in a tie game, and it would be a leadoff walk for Hoskins. But then it turns. Didi, like I said, had a rough series. He was trying to bunt at some point, which I felt was kind of a decent idea, only because it could have thrown Chapman off pitching, or if he laid it down. Chapman's not a great fielder, but Didi ends up flying out. Then it's a bad base runner sweep by Rhys Hoskins as Chapman gets him. Chapman throws it to Gittins, who had pinch hit the inning before for Wade, throws it to Gleyber, and they tag Hoskins out. Really bad base running. Then they looked at Chapman. It looked like his nail was kind of fucked up. It's been bad this year. And Brad Miller, but he would stay in, and then he would strike out Brad Miller. So Chapman, it's slow improvements for what it's worth. And then in the bottom of the ninth, you would get a 1-out single for LeMahieu, and then Stanton would hit the ball to right field, and Brad Miller just completely fucks it up. It's a 2-base error on Miller. So LeMahieu to third, Stanton to second. They then bring in the lefty Ranger Suarez for Odor. I was hoping that Odor would bunt. I was, just because he's so good at it and tough lefty matchup, but he had homered the at-bat before. Odor does not come through as he grounds out to Hoskins, and they get LeMahieu out at the plate, and then Sanchez pops out. Now, if the Yankees had lost this game, believe me, I would have been hung up way more on that and been pissed off, but it's okay. Then in the 10th, they bring in Brooks Kriske. So to me, Nelson and Kriske are like the two worst guys that they have. But Kriske got it done completely. Look, if you're going to send down Kriske or Nelson, send Nelson down. Kriske fucking completely came through, and I was shocked by it. And Torreyes, Girardi had Torreyes do a sac bunt, which was, in that situation, I'm like, great. You're on the road. You want to score as many runs as you possibly can in that type of inning, and he's basically giving the Yankees a free out, so great. And then the key was he struck out Luke Williams. So here it is, runner on third, 2 outs, and then Segura flies out. So no runs allowed by Kriske. So at this moment, you got to win it in the bottom of the 10th, and they do. It would be Torres who lays down a sac bunt. Perfect. That is exactly what you wanted to do. Great looking bunt. Honestly, if you're Philly there, you should have probably walked Gleyber. That way you have the force play, some weaker hitters after Gleyber, but they didn't. Gleyber takes advantage of it and moves Sanchez over to third. The funny thing was, when the inning started, I was thinking, maybe you pinch run Lamar for Sanchez. The reason they didn't do that was because they had envisions of Lamar pinch hitting for Gardner as the lefty Suarez was in, and this would prove to be the correct call. And I always say this, when it comes to sac fly situations, the first pitch is everything, and Lamar, first pitch, deep fly ball to right, and it would be ruled a single. But the point is, he got the job. As soon as he hit it, it was game over, whether it went out for a homer, whether it was caught, whatever. Lamar's the hero. Ryan Lamar. So, like I said, it's a pretty unsung group that's getting it done, but a great piece of hitting, and the Yankees win, and the vibes are good right here, but that can change quickly. That could change really quickly. So let's just quickly set up this Boston series. Montgomery versus Tanner Houck, and Houck pitched well against the Yankees at the game that I went to, which featured Montgomery, Hawk pitched the last 3 innings, scoreless. So we'll see where that goes. Then it's Cole versus Rodriguez, which is a rematch of the last game at Fenway when Cole got hit pretty hard. So hopefully that works out better for the Yankees this time. But Cole was better against Boston this past weekend. Rodriguez has pitched well against the Yankees. Game 3 is Tyone versus Evaldi. Tyone's been better lately, but Evaldi, he's been good against the Yankees too. And then it's Herman versus Martin Perez. This could go, I mean, when you look at it from a starter's perspective, this could go either way, honestly. But this is going to be difficult. What I fear is I think the Yankees starting pitching can actually hold its own. It has. And even though that Boston lineup can be dangerous, I believe they can do the job. What I worry about is, well, the bullpen, certainly. Can it preserve leads? That's one thing. But I think the offense might have some struggles. That's kind of what I'm worrying about here. So let's just see what happens. I can't say it enough how important this road trip leading into the trade deadline is going to be for this club. But, the fact that they're playing better, the brand of baseball is good. Let's just see where this goes. But this is it. Enjoy it now, but it's on to Fenway for the Yankees.